Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes are head to head. I would say these are the guys that, like, good versus evil. You decide who's on the good side, who's on the evil side. But these are guys that are up against each other. They've been going at it for a while. Ben Shapiro, he attempted to throttle Nick Fuentes in the crib when he was a young up-and-comer, and a new cat on the street. But as we can see, this past week, and even the past couple months, the writing's on the wall that Nick Fuentes is rising while Ben Shapiro is declining in popularity on the internet. I don't know which side you're on. I like both these guys, to be honest. I like both of them. But we're going to dive into, because Ben Shapiro, he put out a reaction. He said, "All my haters can kiss my ass," which this is vintage Ben Shapiro. I have liked him for a while, and I think a lot of people stopped liking Ben Shapiro because of Nick Fuentes, primarily, and even Candace Owens. And what is it like? Because all the bots are telling us, and they're jumping in there from like Pakistan and Iran and all these other Middle Eastern countries that they're out there. They're trying to push us to everyone to not like this guy. But it has come to light of the mainstream media, or whatever you want to call it. They did an article that of the layoffs that have happened at the Daily Wire. Is there something to that? I mean, people are without a job now, but it's a serious situation. If this is going to be the ebb and flow of, of just in general, companies, they hire as much as they can, support, and who can contribute, but they sometimes have to let people go. And that's the sad part of life. That's the sad part of business. I'm very neutral on both of these guys. I'm not like I'm diehard one or the other. And I know a lot of people that probably going to catch this are going to be like, how can you like Ben Shapiro? I like him. He represents the conservative viewpoint a lot more than Nick Fuentes, I would say, up front. But we're going to dive into this just to see a little bit of the clip of what Ben Shapiro, he rocked the internet yesterday in his response.
Hey, Russia Today is the official outlet for the Kremlin. Right? It is run by the Russian government. Is retweeting Nick Fuentes' triumphalism today. Fuentes tweeted out, "I won," after that New York Magazine piece came out. And Fuentes won. Well, I don't know. Living in your basement and streaming for 8 hours a day while jacking off to the cat boys, it's a form of winning, I said. All right, I mean, whatever floats your boat, my dude. You might call the Russia Today Fuentes get-together an online Molotov-Ribbentrop pact. Well, it's also why the Washington Post is happy to quote Candace Owens, the ranting bag lady of the internet, to explain that the Daily Wire's numbers are down. Again, that alliance between the left and the woke right is totally real, and it's active. This is why they are getting together to formulate stories. It is why they're repeating the same talking points. Now, Candace says that the Daily Wire's numbers are down because people...
So first of all, so Nick put that out there because the article came out of what New York Magazine. There was a time not very long ago when Ben Shapiro could reasonably call himself the king of all conservative media. That's all over now, writes political columnist Ross Barkan. So he did an article on that, and then Nick Fuentes tweeted over that, "I won." He's claiming victory. This seems like really short game, very nearsighted. I'm gonna try to bring this to like analyzing this from a different perspective, because let's like actually think through this. If Nick's whole thing is there's organized Jewry and Israel controls the world, as a lot of people do, a lot of people think that Israel is pulling the strings. This little country is pulling the strings, because you can't have it both ways. Or they're just doing a complete massive psyop on everyone, and they've got all these groypers to think that they won. Because if they are in control and pulling the strings of everything, how is all the internet, all the media completely against them, and everybody is disgusted with them? Everybody hates Israel at this point for some reason, or at least we're told you got to hate Israel. Not a lot of bona fide facts that are supporting it, but you gotta not like Israel. That's like the popular opinion, and a lot of people that are just running with that. I think it's just the biggest megaphones out there. They just say it, and they don't even know why they're saying it. You could say like they want to go to because the mass genocide that is happening over in Palestine, or I don't even like to call it Palestine. It's Israel. That's the country itself. Palestine was just a name that was as a kind of just to make fun of it, to demoralize that region that was put there, because comes from Philistines. But this idea of just that people are running with, that Israel is the most evil thing in the world, it just doesn't have any support or backing, because it's just what we're told and we're fed to believe, as opposed to what is supported by facts. But Nick Fuentes saying that he won. And do you think he won overall? Because I would just say, like, in general, if Jews control the world and Israel's controlling everything, how could they allow this Groyper movement, this woke Reich movement, to win? Really? Are you that smart that you were able to somehow defeat them? Like, they're controlling the strings in media and who's allowed to speak and who can be in front of everyone. But at the same time, you defeated them? Somehow you won. Or did they just trick you into making you think that they won? Because it would seem like if they are like pulling the strings on everything, they're terrible at PR. They're terrible at like putting out a narrative that fits their best interests. Like, that's where I'm wondering, what has been like, is he really just somebody that's been placed here by Israel, and that's all he is a mouthpiece for Israel? Because if he is, he wouldn't be doing that great of a job. I think he has, because in this video, what he went through, he made it clear that he stood for the same thing. He has not changed his position. He has not wavered. He's doing the same conservative talking points for the last 10, 15 years. Nothing really has changed, but there has been a change, a shift, and a people opposing his viewpoint. But who's going to win the day? Who's actually going to win the day? And if Israel is in charge, how could they allow this movement to happen? Why would they do it? Are they thinking 5D chess? Is that what's going on?
People don't want to be lectured. And this is the teenage point of view from Candace and Megan and Tucker. They're all saying the same thing. They don't want to be lectured. Don't lecture me. Megan tweeted in March 2026, "You're the coward, Ben, and your moral preening, priggish lectures and holier-than-thou judgments are the reason you are losing fans and more than that, friends at a record rate." All these people are on the same script. They're all on the same script. And also, because as people who traffic in crap for sweet, sweet lucre, they would love to be spared the lecture. They don't want to be lectured as they grift. So they're going to do the same thing that, a 13-year-old boy would do if caught doing naughty things on his iPad. They don't want to be lectured. Don't you lecture me. Well, it turns out sometimes in life, people need lectures in decency, in reason, and in truth.
So overall, I would say that the people that are pushing this ideology, it's interesting. It's new. It's novel. It's something that it's gravitating a lot of young people towards. But how did they get to those positions? How did Candace rise up so high in the ranks? When what she is pushing forward is really nonsense in a lot of ways. But somehow she's being boosted in front of everyone, and everyone is buying into this. Somehow she's got interesting real facts, which I'm not seeing them. There's something going on underneath the surface that I can only glean from it, from my point of view, because I think the normies, the regular people out there, they're not into this. They're not on the internet just commenting crazy. I think a lot of it is just bots. Bots are being pushed because these countries that are out there, they want to shape the narrative. And I just, if bots don't get under control, if whoever's running these platforms don't get them under control, it's unrecognizable. What is a real viewpoint at this point? I think that Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes, they're going to be head to head. They've been, I think what Ben did, he probably saw what Nick was going to become, and he wanted to stop it head on, because Nick wasn't that huge back then. He was just a young kid, and Ben tried to stop him. I don't think he really thought possible that Nick could climb his way to the top like this. And he's able to articulate a position that is pretty consistent, but I wouldn't say it's a good position overall. It's not going to be good for young people in the long run. It's fun, it's interesting, but in the long run, it's going to leave you kind of high and dry. Because when anything hits the fan, you're not going to have Nick Fuentes to run to, or he's not going to be there to run to you when stuff starts going on wrong in your personal life. It's you got to have a stronger, firm foundation than just these talking points that the Jews are ruining my life, Israel's ruined my life. Somehow, if we stop funding Israel, that's going to make my life better over here. And I'm not saying we should fund Israel. I'm not at all like saying that. And I just think it's funny at this point that now Israel themselves are saying we don't want American money. Netanyahu's come out, he said that, and it's like, what is the talking points going to be now coming from Tucker Carlson? What's he going to say now that we don't fund them, or we aren't supporting them, or whatever, you know? I am all like, we should do what's in our interest, but like in the long run, if we're not standing with Israel, if we don't support them, not like say that everything they do is correct, but if we don't support them, America's going to not last. America's not going to be here for the long run. Because throughout human history, it does seem like the Jews and Israel, they're the ones that are consistent. You know, at least Jewish people in general. And I would just say that that's their homeland. That's what they recognize as their place. You know, for years, a millennia, that they recognize that as their homeland. They want to live safe and secure. That we should do what's in our power to support them. But I mean, if we even go to, like, if you're a Christian, what did Paul say? Since we have shared with them in spiritual things, we are indebted to them in physical matters. He told that to the church in Rome. When he wrote that in the book of Romans. So it's like, this isn't a new crazy concept, but like, I think a lot of just young people that are just, their brains are fried from TikTok and they're disgruntled, they're upset. They're not seeing as many like options in this life that they could be successful or whatever they're wanting to go towards, that they feel like almost upset. And it's easy to turn that anger towards a people group. And it's like, I think that Nick's rise he's pushing forward some type of idea that is not going to end well. It's not going to end well. And I agree with him on some things, but overall, it's not going to be good for the United States. You could say that he's pushing for America first. It's not America first. It's not. If anything, it's Rome first. It's Roman Catholicism first. It's the idea that he thinks that Jews, we can't trust them because they got this other interest of the land of Israel, and that's what they care about, Israel first. But it's like, it's the same thing, like your ties are to Rome. So I'm not saying that that's a terrible thing. It's not. But it's like, it's the same thing, but it's just your point of view versus their point of view. One doesn't, like, why would one be more credible or valid than the other? But like for Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes, I just see both of these guys. The chickens have come home to roost with Ben. What he's putting forward, it's not like he's changed his viewpoint, but just the tide of public opinion has turned on him, or at least what we are told what public opinion is. And now, like, they're having to lay off people. That's just general. That's just what businesses do over time. So it's not just to say that his viewpoints are now wrong or bad. It's just that public opinion doesn't look at them in the same way. And it's like, that's why if you want to last on the internet, it's like, you have to sell your soul to grift on something. You have to, like, because the spirit is of the internet is just going to move one way or the other and push everybody's attention to thinking one thing's, popular. Not necessarily that it's true or correct, but it's popular. It's what people want to hear. Their ears itch and they want to hear this. They're upset. They're mad about their life, so they want to. I'm gonna go after whatever terrible idea is out there, and that's what it's not really like good for you, but it's interesting. And it's like, I just want these young people that listen to Nick Fuentes, come to him with a critical ear, like what you're hearing. You can watch him just like you want to watch a horror movie. It's fun and interesting, and it piques your curiosity. He makes you laugh, but like, if you're not critical of what he's saying and actually evaluating what he's saying, his ideas aren't going to be good for you in the long run. They're not going to do wonders for your life. Because it's so scattered what he is promoting. And I listened to Nick Fuentes this week on it's Crowder. I forget what's his first name. Crowder. Louder with Crowder. You know who I'm talking about. And him trying to defend his position of just voting Democrat and how he's going to make it possible that in 2028 we're going to have a good America First candidate, that meets his litmus test of who he's willing to vote for. And it did not make sense. It was not actually valid at all. There was no like coherency to it. And Crowder kept pushing him over and over, and Nick could not defend it whatsoever. It's like Nick wants to blow up our system, and I'm like, I wouldn't really like necessarily care if our system got blown up. I'm not too, but like it's just like being real with people. You just like at least say that. At least say that's what you're doing. And it's like, why are you wanting to do that? Is it because you want to eventually take over the reins and be the power in the United States? I get so many mixed messages from him. I don't know where he's at on this. It's like, because it does seem like an outside foreign force is pushing him. If you had the best interest for America, this is not what you would be pushing on young people and warping their minds with. Because like in saying that you're going to vote Democrat, somehow there's no candidate that's actually going to win. It's just going to blow up everything. And we're going to just be controlled by just some woke, Democrat, and it'll be even crazier. It's like, this is like, it's going to be very short lived of this not being censored, of people being able to speak, of people being able to talk on the internet. It's like, it's a very small window that we're going to have this. Are you really thinking it through? Because to me, that's almost the biggest thing that I love about America is the freedom of speech that is different as opposed to anywhere else in the world. That we can actually say, we can speak up against the ones in our authority. But it's like, if people that don't have those values that are put in power, we're going to have those taken away from us. It doesn't match up with reality, what you're pushing. With Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes and who won overall, right now, I would say Nick Fuentes has won in popular opinion. That's where the popularity is. But it's like in overall long term, who's going to win? I would say the Jewish people are going to win. Israel is going to win. Like if you're not just like bought into, I need Israel to lose, or I need to somehow, they're the one causing all these ills in my life. If you're not bought into that and you're willing to be what's actually rational and reasonable, the Jews win. And that's why it's such a disconnect where your whole message is that Israel and the Jews are controlling everything. They're pulling all the strings. But then somehow in this near short window, you think you've won. What have you really won? And if you have won, then you're just being deceived by them because they're in ultimate power. And they're the ones controlling everything, pulling all the strings. It's just, I think honestly, I want to step back and actually think about this and what you're saying. It doesn't make sense because I see it from both sides. I think it's kind of a farce. They don't really have as much power as a lot of people will make it out to be. They don't. They really don't have as much power because if they did, they would be shaping the narrative. They would shape the narrative differently. They wouldn't do everything that just makes them look, terrible. They would do things that make them put them in a good light. And they wouldn't just out of left field assassinate their biggest supporter, Charlie Kirk. That doesn't make any sense. But the people that are on the Nick's not pushing that, but all these other ones that are on this woke Reich movement are pushing that. And they're going to see Israel behind every bush, Israel behind every situation that happens in this life. It doesn't make sense. There's no logic to what they are saying. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's it. You can't have it both sides. So like, if you wanted to step back and actually, what is reality? I know we can say nutsy, funny things, just to get a view, get a click, but really, like, what you're saying doesn't make coherent sense. It doesn't. And I think the reality is you're just peddling this narrative that Israel and the Jews are controlling everything just so you can somehow have a scapegoat, a people group, somebody to put all your problems on. And that just seems like it almost comes to the biblical situation. We do see at the end of the age, all nations are going to turn against Israel. That's how I view it. All nations are going to turn against them. And it's like, do they want that? Are they the ones that are trying to make themselves look so terrible that they did not think this out? They didn't think 10 steps ahead of like what they were doing. It just doesn't make sense. All right, we'll leave it at that. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment and have a good rest of your weekend. See y'all.